Well, welcome back to the channel. A couple of hours ago, just out here, the Lions beat the Brumbies. What did you make of the performance? Stadium now empty. It is just about midnight here in Canberra. So I'll take you up to where I was sat in the TalkSport commentary position. But let me know, what did you make of that performance from the Lions? Put it down below in the comment section. Like the video as well, subscribe to the channel and all that jazz. I'll try to see, I think maybe the coaches are down here. Maybe not, different radio suites. So come with me. It's one of those that you're starting to have genuine questions over where this Lions team are ahead of the Test series. So welcome in, this was my booth. So I had all my kits up over here, that was the view of the ground, so a pretty fortunate position to be in. And I feel like I'm just getting to a point with the Lions at the moment where I'm almost starting to have more questions than I am answers. That when I think back to the Argentina game at the start of the tour, and they lost that game and they were really unhappy after it, my general view was, do you know what? You are giving yourself the building blocks in place to be able to build throughout the rest of the tour and get yourself ready for the Test series. Whereas I kind of look at it at the moment and I think, how much progression has there been? And not as much as I think you would want. There are still positive elements, and I'll get onto them. The scrum in particular has been absolutely awesome, but it's still a Lions team that I'm looking at and just kind of trying to work out exactly where they are. Particularly tonight, a game against a Brumbies team that were missing a load of Wallabies against the team that we think pretty much looks like the first Test team for the Lions, was probably expecting a more comprehensive performance. And in the end, the scoreboard was fairly comprehensive, but I don't think it necessarily reflected the game overall. So I'll try and get into all of it. As I say, have your views in the comments. Kind of, where are you with this Lions team? Do you think, do you know what, they'll be all right, they'll get there? Or are you starting to get to the point where you think, I'd like to see a little bit more? And that's kind of where I am. And the tricky thing with trying to judge this is there is an element of the Lions holding stuff back for the Test series. Andy Farrell was asked at the end of his press conference, how much are you holding back? And he said probably about as much as the Wallabies are. And when you look at the Wallabies' performance and how they didn't really use Sualihi and didn't kick to compete as much, I think these are clearly two teams that are holding back for the Test series, which makes it really hard to judge this, because I can't absolutely hammer them because I don't exactly know what they're planning to do when it comes to those matches against Australia. But yeah, at the moment, just lacking something. And for me, that's probably in two main areas, really. Tonight, and actually we've seen it, I think, in most of the games, the breakdown and the aerial game. Teams are kicking to compete against the Lions, and they are not dealing with it well. Players even like Tommy Freeman, Blair Kinghorn when he was on the pitch, who are really good operators in the air, they've been struggling with it. I think clearly teams are kicking to compete against the Lions and think they can have a real good success there. And in part, I think that's also to do with how the laws are these days. If you speak to any back three player, they will talk about the fact that it's so hard to compete at the moment because the opposition can just put someone up, they can try and bat it back, they don't have to necessarily try and catch it. It's such a difficult area to dominate. But I think that's been a problem for the Lions throughout the tour. And then the breakdown. Because again, they are getting hammered at the breakdown. And I think there's two things happening here. I think partly it's the Lions and their combinations and their game plan, and they're just getting, at times, they might make a break and they're fractionally too slow to get there to the clear out, and that's the difference between a penalty or losing the ball. The other part of this, I wonder and think, is their frustrations with the officiating. I wonder how frustrated they are with the way in which the breakdown is being officiated at the moment. Because they said they're going to have to seek clarity again. And if you look at that Wallabies back row, yes, this might not be the greatest Wallabies team of all time, but they have operators on the floor that will absolutely hammer you at the breakdown. So I think that is a concern. That has to be a real concern for the Lions. And I think it's going to dictate their selection in the back five of the scrum. They've got loads of options, loads of good options, particularly at 7. But who do you go with? Who's going to give you the biggest advantage in that area? Because I would have thought Tom Curry, one of the best operators at the breakdown in the world, didn't necessarily see the best of him again today, I didn't think. So I think those are two areas of huge concern for the Lions. The other one, off the back of this game, is Blair Kinghorn. So he went off injured in the first half. He picked up a knock pretty early on, tried to play on. I asked Andy Farrell if he fears the worst, and he said no, but he was never really going to give too much in the post-match press conference. By the time you're watching this, if it's tomorrow, we might have news on it, but that has the potential to be a seismic blow, I think, to the Lions. They've lost Elliot Daly, Hugo Keenan is trying to return to form and fitness, having been injured and also having had a stomach bug in Brisbane a week ago or whatever it was. Didn't look too sharp against the Waratahs. Marcus Smith, I love as a player. Has some unbelievable talents. I just don't think he's a fullback. As soon as he comes on at fullback, you can see the opposition trying to pick out where he is in the backfield and kicking to him and competing in the air. And again, it goes back to the aerial battle that the Lions are losing. Particularly given the fact they called up Owen Farrell, I think that is an area of concern for the Lions 100%. Let's see what happens, but it could be Hugo Keenan that is going to come in to start the first test if Kinghorn is injured. And realistically, you would say, based upon what we've seen on this tour, he'd have been third choice, would he really, behind Daly and Blair Kinghorn? So let's hope it's not too serious, but he looked pretty dejected and frustrated when he came off. That's big news for the Lions. All right, I've been a bit negative. What about some positives? Scrum. The Lions scrum is awesome. It was awesome again. They absolutely mullered the Brumbies. And if you have a good scrum, as we've seen with the Springboks year after year for quite a while now, you always have a chance in a game. You always have a chance of clawing your way back into the game. It can be such a focal point in terms of launching attacks, in terms of gaining penalties, putting pressure on the opposition. I think the scrum has been excellent. I'll tell you what I'll do actually. Because coming into this, we all thought that's the starting test team, that's the 15. I'll run through it. Who do we think do we think selection's got any clearer or any murkier off the back of that performance? Ellis Genge thought he was really good once again. I think you could easily start Andrew Porter because of how good he is, but Ellis Genge in terms of his carrying in particular has been awesome. From the Argentina game all the way through to now, he's playing some of his best stuff. So he's still good. Sheehan, I think, will start the test matches. Tyke Furlong. What did you all make of Tyke Furlong's performance? I think he needed that today. I think it was a much better performance than we've seen from him previously. So I thought Furlong was good. Has he done enough to convince you he should start over Will Stewart, for example, or Finlay Bealham, who's been excellent on tour? I think tight head's a really tough position to call. Some people I was speaking to here afterwards kind of thought that Furlong had done enough. I was a bit more 50-50, I suppose, on that one. But he was good. Mawar Itoje will start the tests. McCarthy, don't think he did anything wrong, but this is where, for me, it comes into the balance of the back five of the scrum and how you get the best out of this team in terms of restarts, because they've still been a problem, line out, which has got better, breakdown, which is a major issue. So McCarthy, I probably had locked in and have a bit more of a question mark over, because I think maybe Chesham starts. Chesham I thought was really good today, but do you start him at 6, or are you going to go for 2 7s in your back row because you want a bit more pace and people to get to that breakdown? So Chesham, I think yes. McCarthy, question mark. Conan, I think yes. And Tom Curry, I still think question mark. I still think Van der Fleer and Jack Morgan have been the better form kind of 7s, or, I mean, Curry's played across the back row really, could play at 6. But I wonder whether we see a Van der Fleer or a Morgan along with Curry. But I've got a question mark over Curry. I just feel like Andy Farrell might go for him. Gibson Park and Finn Russell, ooze quality, class operators. They look great. They'll start. Bundy Aki at 12. Not 100% convinced, but I think we might see him start just because Tuipulotu hasn't necessarily done enough. We'll probably see Tuipulotu, I guess, on Saturday, so maybe he'll play his way in. Gary Ringrose I thought was excellent again. He was really good against the Western Force in Perth. I thought he was good again tonight. Tommy Freeman, James Lowe, Blair Kinghorn. So Kinghorn, question mark over, it will depend on his fitness. Freeman, I'd still say yes. Didn't really have an amazing game today, but I suppose it wasn't really one where we saw the wings got too involved. James Lowe I've had as a lock as well, and I think I still do. But he looked tentative. That finish for the try where he got held up was weird, wasn't it? Like he didn't have his best game. The Lions haven't been using him as much as I think they thought they would with the kicking game, which maybe comes back into how they're trying to save a few things ahead of the test series. So, yeah, multiple different stuff going on there. I still think a lot of those players will start the test, but maybe there's a few more food for thought maybe ahead of the test series. I'll leave it there because I think I'm about to get kicked out of the stadium probably. It's getting late here. Drop a comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel. How concerned are you with the Lions in terms of their preparation for the first test? That is the main question for me off the back of this one.